Who is this Jesus that you and I worship? Is Jesus God or is he human? Is he a prophet? Is he the creator of all this world? Who is Jesus? Let's go to the book of John. The book of John explains it to us so perfectly. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word created everything, and then the Word became flesh to dwell among us. Now, with this information, let us go back to the book of John again. And in the beginning, it says, in the beginning was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. And Jesus created everything that is created and was created. And then Jesus decided to become human for your and my sake. And this has been the testimony of the disciples and also the apostles of the old time. They said, we've touched him, we've heard him, and we also listened to him and we saw him. Now, in history, of course, you always see developments away from the central truth. On the one side, we have the people saying that Jesus was only human. And I think you know whom I'm talking about, the people sitting next to the road and sometimes knocking on your door. Some of the biggest religious groups in the world will recognize Jesus as a prophet and a human being, but not as God. And this is the one side of the spectrum. On the other side, we have more the mystical and also the spiritual, if I can quote that, unquote that, coming more from the Greek philosophers and the mysticism in the Greek society, where Jesus was seen only as a spirit that manifested as if he was a person. He was not real. Now, this too brings us to a very, very important question. How could Jesus die on the cross for our sins if he was only human? Because humans are born in sin. We are sinful people. It is like a lamb that is slaughtered. It can only bring salvation for that moment or that day, but it is not eternal salvation. So being only human, Jesus could hang on the cross, he could bleed, he could cry, he could be persecuted, but he could not have died for our sins as a human being only. On the other side of the spectrum, it is easy to say, how can a spirit die on a cross for us? It is absolute nonsense. So for the spirit and for the body to come together, we have what we have in Jesus. Jesus became flesh. God became flesh so that you and I can live. And this was the testimony, as I said, of the apostles and the disciples in the first 100 years. And it's small wonder that the world just exploded accepting Jesus Christ, because the testimony was this: we saw him, we listened to him, we heard him, and we also touched him. He dwelled among us. We had meals with him. Paul never saw Jesus, until one day on the road of Damascus, the glorious appearance of Jesus came upon him. He heard him speak and he saw him to such an extent that his eyes crystallized and he couldn't see anymore. He was blinded. And only after 3 days, it started to fall down like dandruff from his eyes. And then he said, and he fell on his knees and he said, I will become your slave, Jesus the Christ, forever and forever. Thomas was sitting with the disciples and they were discussing, and the disciples said, there's a story going around that Jesus rose from the dead. And Thomas said, never, I won't believe that. And at that moment, Jesus appeared to them. And Jesus smiled and he looked at Thomas and he said, listen to me, see me, but bring your hand, bring your finger and come put it into the marks that I have where the nails has gone through. And Thomas fell on his knees and he said, my Lord and my God. My question for myself and for you is this: what testimony do we have today to tell to other people? No, not what the Bible says. What testimony do you have? What have you seen of Jesus? What have you experienced of Jesus? What do you know of Jesus? Because that will make the difference in a world yearning out there to know whether Jesus Christ is not only a prophet, but is he the Messiah? Is he God that came to die so that you and I can live? And that is the beauty of it. Jesus said there's only one way. I am the way to the Father, because I am also the Father. The Father and I am one. If you have seen me, Jesus said, you have seen the Father. So what is our story? Our story is basically this. Going back to the book of John. In the beginning was Jesus. And Jesus was with God. And Jesus was